You. Peace. Peace. How's everybody doing? We hoping everybody is well. This is your brother and your friend Yeshaya Israel. Have not been online for a little bit, for quite some time, on my own platform, dealing with one thing or the other, not necessarily bad, but important. And wanted to sit there and address this kind of subject. The presentation, short, is called I Have Thank You. Now, when you look at the screen here, it says you must pitch the black male versus the black female and the black female versus the black male. Some of the language that I'm going to use in this is not for children. So, brothers and sisters, what we want to do is get into this kind of subject, speak about it from where many of us brothers feel, not that I speak for every brother, but we want to sit there and get this out to the people for edification and understanding purposes. It is important that we understand where each other is coming from. It's important to make yourself understood. And it's important to give people the time and the respect when he or she respects you to want to be understood. So let us get into this kind of subject matter, if we will. Thank you for that. We are going to pull up the PowerPoint in this particular case, if we will, and let's see in this manner. Bring it out. Not all males are bad. Now, we know it's pretty early in the morning, pretty late in the week, depends on how you're looking at it, but we do want to bring this out for reference purposes. There are some males that are bad, and there are some males that are not. There are some females that are bad, and there are some females that are not. Bad people don't understand why good people are the way they are. Good people don't understand the reason why bad people are the way they are, because most people think others are just like him or her. Good people think everyone should be good. Bad people think everybody should be bad. Case in point, I watched the movie Goodfellas not too long ago. And the guy narrating regarding Henry Hill said, I'm paraphrasing, those goody-goody people who work at shitty jobs that they don't like for a bum paycheck had no balls. If we wanted something, we simply took it. If anyone complained, they got hit so hard they never complained again. That is from the movie Goodfellas and paraphrasing. See, those kind of people who are bad don't understand why there are, quote, good people. Good people, if we were to cite a movie, like the guy that was a bus driver, I think it was in a movie called Bronx Tale, was saying the working man is not a sucker. So these are things just wanted to point out for reference purposes, family, and reference and edification purposes. Due to the continuous matter of having to prove that males, namely black males, are not all bad, some are genuine and concerned, this presentation is presented. We ask you all to subscribe and comment. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel. You must put the black male versus the black female and the black female versus the black male. Willie Lynch, 1712. Now, whether or not Willie Lynch was an actual person, Jim Crow, to my knowledge, was not an actual person, but it was a concept that was practiced. It was an institution of a society, as in Jim Crow, that was practiced. Willie Lynch is a concept, if not a person, that is definitely put in practice. See, when people just sit there and say, well, Willie Lynch never existed, so therefore, no. Jim Crow, who was that? Correct me if I'm wrong about that being an actual person. So we're not going to try to embellish nor downplay the situation that has happened and goes on, say, with a people in this particular case. Now, what do we mean by I have, thank you? Can I, this is paraphrasing about situations that people go through. Can I treat you to lunch? I have Cash App. Now, that is a male asking a female. Not saying that females don't treat males, many do, but we're talking in this aspect in this. The response, no thanks, people do things with expectations. Earlier, I mentioned Henry Hill, who was, for all intents and purposes, Caucasian. I mentioned earlier the gentleman who played in the movie Bronx Tale, for all intents and purposes, they were Caucasians. Do we, as, quote, black people, ask the white man and sit there and state, no, thank you, we got it? We got black people going as far as Washington, D.C., talking about give us reparations. You have black organizations that sit there and state, we are owed this due to the fact of slavery, and we're going to sit there and prove our case in court. So we as a people generally are not going to other races and saying, no thanks, people do things with expectations. We sit there and march for reparations for years. We sit there and go to court for reparations for years. We sit there and hire lawyers for reparations, something that we know and say is due to us for years. But yet, once it comes, no disrespect intended, with us dealing, say, with us, it comes down to a matter of what? Well, I have no thanks, because people expect certain things and you know, and so forth and so on. So what do we want to point out in this particular case, if we will, is this. And that is, no disrespect intended, as I respond real quick to this particular matter, if we will, as quote, say, black people, we are the only people who sit there and tell one another, I'm good, I don't need shit from you. That's why I said, pardon the language of some of this. We are the only people who tell one another, I'm good, you ain't worth shit for me or to me. We don't sit there and say that to nobody else because we're afraid of being called the R word. Don't dare sit there and be called racist. No, can't sit there and do that, and we shouldn't do that. But we feel that if we sit there and, excuse me, shit on one another, then therefore we'll be accepted by others. Look, my son, I hate niggas too. That kind of spirit. We're the only people on earth who do that. I work in New York. When you see people from West Africa, they hire people from West Africa. When you see people from Italy, they hire other Italians. When you see Irish, they hire other Irish. We're the only ones who sit there and will actually say, oh, when I get in some kind of position of power, I got to hire other people. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble. So it has then boiled down to an ideology, a concept that sits there and says, can I treat you to lunch? I have Cash App. No thanks. People do things with expectations. But who are the people that do things for expectations? And what are the expectations? And I don't mean to be disrespectful between male and female. The harlots, the jump offs have taken the place of the prostitute. So if you're thinking that sexuality is what somebody wants to sit there and do something for, males don't have to sit there and do the Cash App for those things anymore. In many cases, it's free of charge. So you got to do is get a place and condom. So we have to begin to sit there and ask, what do we think of ourselves as value in this kind of case? Because again, not to be redundant, as black people, black males and females, we do not sit there and tell other races that line that says, no thanks, people do things with expectations. When you get a raise, you don't sit there and question why at the job. When you get hired, you don't sit there and question, do you think they want to sit there and do something? No, we go there with a big cheese grin smile on our face, like, yay. Another thing to point out between us as males and females, not that I'm a psychiatrist or psychologist or nothing like that. People can be at a job that's toxic. that is not healthy. Leave that job on a Friday and be ready for the other job Sunday afternoon. The hell with Monday. They already got their clothes ready Sunday afternoon. They already got their transportation together from Saturday night. They can be at a job that is toxic for X amount of years and jump right from that job to another and forget all about the toxicity. So what do I want to point out? Not that I am a psychologist or psychiatrist or anything like that. People allow things to fuck with them as long as they allow it to. Because when you go from one, say, job that's toxic to another that you hope and feel will be better, you don't bring that toxicity. You don't go into that new job like, hey, you know what? This job might be toxic too. But for us as men and women, we do that to each other. That nigga toxic. That's just a toxic. That's such and such toxic. That mother is toxic. We think that of each other already because of some experiences in the past. But why is the difference come into play? Because a job, a career, a source of income is needed. So we see the importance of paying the rent. We see the importance of paying the mortgage. We see the importance of paying the car note. We see the importance of paying the insurance. We see the importance of paying to get things for your children. So the toxicity that you left from that job on Friday, you don't sit there and bring to the next place because you put value on that job because of the income that comes with it. But with one another, we don't see each other as important as a job. I'm talking from what I know. You don't find, correct me if I'm wrong, people in great quantities having to go to see a shrink, a doctor, or so forth and so on after a situation with their job in most cases. They'll quit. They may even go out to dinner like, finally got rid of that job. I ain't got to deal with that bullshit. I'm done. The motherfuckers can go where they want. I'm good. It may be less money, but it's more peace. It may be more money and more peace. But it's about peace. But once it comes down between male and female, we sit there and feel like, stay there, I don't need you. That's why I put in a thing there. You must pitch the black male versus the black female and the black female versus the black male. And that's real talk. Real talk. Easier to go from a job that you see and understand is toxic, leave it and go to somewhere else. Be ready for that job early Monday morning. Be the first one there. Make sure you show on time because it leaves a good impression. Make sure you make yourself available. May sit there and not take the whole lunch hour because I'm here. Because you see the value in that job. You see the value in that career, but black men and women don't see the value in each other. That's why we can say no thank you to one another. Jewish people don't. The Jewish dollar stays in the Jewish community several times before it goes out. Us, we don't see the value in each other, so ain't nobody going to trick me. She ain't going to buy my manhood. Don't let him do shit for you, girl, because these niggas going to sit there and try to... We know exactly how we sit there and think one with another in that manner. And again, we're the ones who think like that with each other. So she stays without extra help because ultimately she does not care to reciprocate. So we have to ask when you say, oh, I say no thank you, because a male may have expectations. You may not care to reciprocate. It could be anything. Case in point, when I be on Facebook ever so often, right? And I see people come on there and say, I would like you to donate to our village over in, not to be disrespectful, Uganda. And what can you do for me? Is my question. I didn't ask you for $1. I didn't sit there and send nothing to Western Union internationally. I didn't sit there and try to promote anything of that kind of sort. You sent me a request for me to do something for your village in a place where I don't know. And of course, because you don't care to reciprocate any kind of respect and love with that, one hand washing the other with clean soap, one hand washing the other, making sure there's no pork byproducts in that soap. we're going to sit there, I help you, you help me. No, it's you help me in my village and fuck you in the process. Because if you was intelligent, you would sit there and say, well, what can I do to help you? You can sit there and share my page. You can share my book. You can share my song. You can share my website. I didn't ask you for money like you asked me for your village. But because you do not care to reciprocate, can you just help me? That's that bullshit that we as people do to one another. And this is why we want to talk about this kind of subject. You understand? We have to sit back and ask, how can you think that somebody, and I don't mean no disrespect in saying this between male and female, he's going to sit there and want something when, once it comes down to sex, he doesn't even have to work hard for it. These days, not to be funny. So if that's where you think the value is at and what he wants to do, we have to sit back and ask, what have you been presenting? What have you been offering? For you to sit back and think that a Cash App is going to equivalent fucking. Excuse me. This channel might be a little out there. We have to sit back and ask these kind of things, family, if we care to. You understand? When you go to that new job after leaving the other one that's toxic, you have a different spirit than when you go from one relationship to the other, in the past relationship being toxic. It's all a relation, whether it's employer, employee, supervisor and hireling, manager and staff. And the job that I got, they make sure they emphasize, that's not a supervisor, that's the director. Get it right, dude. It's not a supervisor. That person's the director. Like, okay, and we all use the same bathroom. So therefore, we're all human. And I'm not going to sit there and treat one different than the other for several reasons. One had a certain upbringing, and two, you never know who is who. So these are things that we want to sit there and talk about and bring out, family. Let's continue. Let us explain the situation. Now, these flyers that you see is something that a friend of mine made. I paid for that in that particular case. That's business. One helps the other. Business. Then we sit back and we don't have nothing as a people. We always sit there and broke. We don't. It's because we don't do it. It's not because of the color of your skin. It's because of your deeds and actions. Our deeds and actions. Our parents' deeds and actions, which we not need to bring to our children. Not every man thinks with his dick. Some males offer help from the heart and pocket and it for friends and family. Some do it for disingenuous reasons, but time will tell a story. Some are genuine and concerned. Some are givers and caretakers. Some females, and it's not to be sexist, have oh, I'm sorry. I mistyped that. My fault. I meant to put heart. Let's continue. Have a heart of stone and a wall of a castle, which ultimately causes males who are genuine and say and fit also love somewhere else. And this can go for both genders. You understand? You have it to where there are females that will want to help males. Like I said before, yo, I already had a mother. You can't help me do nothing. I'm good. We're the only people who sit there in a fucked up state telling each other we good. We're the only people who's okay getting a loan from a bank and sitting telling one another, no, I don't need no help from you. Because we see people like that we see portrayed in the movie, not being racial, as the leaders. Our people will never fix our mouth to tell a white man, don't give us nothing. We won't do that. Like we stated, we talk about going as far as Washington, D.C., talk about reparations from the government. But we sit there and think when we want to help each other, want to do things for each other and with each other, that he or she must be crook. You see a black politician, you automatically think, oh, they must be sit there and be this. You know, most people, as we spoke about earlier, think most people are like him or her. That's you that you think is being like someone else. That's your energy that you sitting up there bringing out there to the people. It's not the person who you have evidence of that. It's yourself. Like we said, good people don't understand why they are bad people, and bad people don't understand why they are good people. Now, there's nothing wrong with friends helping friends. That's a friendship. That is a certain kind of relationship in that particular case. What's wrong with that? Please let me know in the comments. So these are things that we care to point out and bring out for reference purposes. You understand? So, not to be redundant, we're the only people who will sit there for male or female to male to tell each other, no, thank you, I don't need your help. Because we will not sit there and say that to the person who hires. We will not sit there to the human resources department of jobs. We will not sit there and say that to the person when you go for petty cash at the job. We will not sit there and state that to the person who pushes the application. We will not sit there and state that to X, Y, and Z. And we know why? Because we sit there and feel that that job, that career, that source of income is needed. I watched a video, I didn't save it, but I watched a video where a guy was saying to the females, is a man needed? Hell no. And then one person said, well, yeah. And then the other person said, well, yeah, if I need my bags carried. So when we talk about the Willie Lynch concept from the 1700s, where it says put the male versus the female and the female versus the male, what point is it when it says is a man needed? And what man has been replaced with the other? You understand? So I want to point this out, that if we can go as a people, and I've done it myself, anytime I'm at a job and I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking about wringing somebody's neck and not trying to talk violence online, that's when it's time for me to quit. If I'm looking at like, I can't stand it, time to leave. Let me tell you a personal thing on how I resigned from a job once. I had 2 weeks vacation in the new year that came. This is some years ago, right? And I went and took 1 week and went around looking for another job. Got the job. Got trained at the job. Then got hired at the job. Then I took the second week, some weeks after the first week, because the job was going to be going from nighttime now to daytime. So I had 2 jobs, but now with the change of the shift and everything, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just sit there and resign from one and the other. So while I'm on vacation, that second week, I'm expected to go back to that job that Monday. So what did I do? Not trying to be funny. I went to FedEx and faxed the job. And then called the job. And the receptionist was like, yes, hey, called me by my government. Yes, hey, how you doing? Yes, make sure Mr. Such and Such gets the fax. And we were friends, me and the receptionist, so she laughed. Like, ha. I said, I'm very serious. She was like, excuse me. I said, I'm not mean no disrespect, but make sure that Mr. Such and Such gets this fax. What the fax was saying was, thank you for the opportunity. I resigned from this job. But I didn't do it without having another job. That's intelligence at that point. You don't resign, quit from one job without having another in this society. We got to use wisdom. We go through bullshit sometimes at a job because of the necessity to pay this bill and so forth and so on. We give jobs and money more chances than we do each other as men and women. Our bodies, our intestines take more shit and abuse from us, no pun intended by saying shit, with your intestines than we tolerate from one another. If our intestines treated us with grudge the way we as men and women treat each other, we'll all be dead. You've been giving me ding-dongs and cupcakes and soda for freaking damn near 20-something years. What if our intestines treated us the way we treat it? The way we feel, I'm going to keep this receipt and I'm going to get this fucker back. You see how we think? See, our intestines are more merciful to us than our mind is to one another. You understand? I'm not saying quit a job without having another. I'm not saying tolerate bullshit from each other as men and women. I am saying this, that we are the only ones who sit there and think negative of each other first and keep that thought in there. But meanwhile, you have a people that we go to in many cases for jobs that have a whole movie called Roots and then remake it about you getting your ass beat from one continent to the next. They made buku, hundreds of thousands into the millions of dollars showing slave films. 12 Years a Slave, Butler, Roots, Amistad. They make movies and show us getting our ass beat for money, and we the same ones who go to the same people sitting up there saying, can you hire me? Matter of fact, let me give you the application. My son or my daughter needs a job. I remember my mother telling me at 19, you need to sit there and really start working. Until you go to college, you're going to have to sit there and do something. So I know exactly where I'm coming from and what I'm talking about. So what do we care in continuing to point this out for reference purposes? We treat our intestines horribly with our diet. If our intestines treated us the same way we treat our intestines, we'll all be dead for years and decades of giving it bullshit. Its tolerance will run out. If it were us, we accept the apology that Bill Clinton and George Bush gave concerning slavery. Did you know that both George Bush Jr. and Clinton apologized for slavery? We sit there and accept that before, as black men and women, accept one another and our apology. We think we're full of shit with each other. We don't give each other the, quote, true benefit of a doubt. These are things we care to sit there and bring out. Did you know that? And I want to emphasize, if I may, there are jobs that are toxic. And I explained what I did with one. When I quit that job and set the facts there and had to go for the day training for the other, family, extended, immediate, whoever may be listening, I felt the relief like a motherfucker. To be like, woo, I can quit that job. That motherfucker felt good. I ain't gonna lie. I know what it is to be in a toxic job and you're like, I can't wait to be able to quit this one. And I was able to do so. When I went to the FedEx and sent the fax, I worked the night before at that new job. I was there partying along with the people's partying while not trying to get distracted because I knew the happiness that I was about to sit there and get into by being able to sit there and leave one job for what I understand to be better. And that job did turn out to be a whole lot better. Because from that job, not to get too personal, I wound up getting to connect to be able to work in a college where I taught in a college in history, which is, for those who do know, history is my passion. So I'm trying to point this out, family. Is that, as Taylor B wrote, that's why the world collectively shits on us, is because everybody knows what happens. In jail, they say that sometimes they try to pick on you till you fight back. Even if you fight back and lose, then they'll stop. We've been talking about getting our ass beat and fucked up for over 50-something years. Eventually, even in the black community, The person who gets bullied, when you keep talking about it, that becomes annoying. When do you stand up for yourself? And I'm not condoning violence. I'm talking about getting something like a Black Wall Street. I'm talking about getting something like your own school. I'm talking about getting something and mobilize the people who can sit there and get those kind of things done. Just because you talk about it, you may not be the person for it. Put that seed out there, that energy out there, and it may spark into somebody else for such. So, sisters, there are some men that are genuine and want to be caretakers. You don't have to have that heart and heart unless that's the case with that particular person. And if it is, don't sit there and accept, well, I accept this, but I can't accept that, because your heart is like you playing games with people like that. Because you got some who go 100 and some who don't go at all. You got some who give 110, even though the figure don't exist, you know what we mean. You go above and beyond, and then some who don't give a fuck. So therefore, you have to sit back and understand what it is. Now, some people may feel, brother, the language you're using, this platform may not be for everybody on the history lessons. I wanted to reach an audience. I wanted to reach a group of people in this particular matter. People do things with expectations. What you have just stated would make some wonder, what can you bring to the table? Because this is no disrespect intended. To my understanding, the prostitutes ain't getting business because everybody's doing what they do. So what are you talking about with these expectations? How is it not good to sit there helping each other? Since when was that a problem? We ask other nationalities for a job application for our sons and daughters. But we can't sit there as brothers and sisters being grown, sit there and help one another and accept the help. So, not to be long-winded or redundant, in closing out what the time we allotted, it's now going on like 9:20, the time where, and I got to be at the job like at 9:30. So, but I want to close out in saying this. The same energy that we can put in getting over our toxicity with the jobs or the careers is the same energy that we can put in getting rid of the toxicity matter and say a relationship between a man and a woman. It's up to you how long you will let something fuck with you. It's up to you how long you let something rent space in your head. Just as quickly as you can quit a job. Sometimes they'll be like, fuck your 2 weeks notice, motherfucker. I'm leaving. Bye, bitch. Sometimes, so I've seen people work out like that. I remember one time this brother was being escorted from a job by HR. That's the happiest I seen him when I was working in the lobby. Like, he was on some, not skippy, like he's on some, homosexual stuff, but it's like, hey, I'm Gilly. Like, hey, shit, you did me a favor. That's how he left. So I'm saying that, all of that to say this. Use wisdom. Don't leave a job because it's not what makes you happy without another one, because we do need a source of income. We have to use intelligence. Well, what I am attempting to state, family, is this. The same way we leave from a job or so that is toxic on a Friday, sometimes without giving a 2 weeks notice, it's the same way, with the same energy, that you can leave a toxic relationship and move on. Don't let your so-called friends sit there and state and keep beating you in the head. You can't do it. You got to sit there and take 18 years to sit there and get your thoughts back together and everything like that. Because the job, the career that you left that was toxic, you put value on it because of the income that you're using to handle your business. But we don't think we are worth one another in business for us to handle each other. That, my friend, is nigga shit.